Do you ever have days where you want to be creative, but you just don't feel like getting inky? Well, today I have not one, not two, but three great ideas that will help you get crafty without opening one ink pad. For the first project, I'm using the Water Brush Hello die and the Soda Top nesting dies, both from Altenew. Now, the Soda Top nesting dies, they are all individuals, but what I did was I kept them in this nesting shape and I taped them all together on the back with some washi tape so I could cut out a whole bunch of different colors. And by doing that, I was able to create this pattern, and I'll do a different pattern for this card. And then I have a whole bunch of other leftover pieces that I can use to create even more cards. So I'm just going to grab 4 of the colors, and I'm going to start off with the largest one here and pop it off the edge. So that way I can have kind of a more interesting look than just having it centered or something like that. By cutting it off the edge, it just gives it a little bit of interest. And go ahead and just glue these all down. It is such an easy project. So this, I need to make sure that I've got enough on here. There we go. So get that to stick down, and I want to make sure that I'm level here across the bottom because that's really going to set the pace for the remainder of the pieces going in. All right, and then I'm just going to pick my next largest size, and because these were all kind of cut in a way that this was not put together, there may be some that are cut a little bit more to the left or to the right, so sometimes you have to turn them just a little bit to make sure that you get it to fit in here just the right way. So that is pretty good, and I can go ahead and glue this one in. So that just nests right in there perfectly. And just give it a second to dry in place. And there we go. And then I've got my third color here. And I chose to go with like a monochromatic look here. Of course, you could pick any combination of colors that suits your fancy. You could go for rainbow, you could go monochromatic like I did, but pick a different color family. You could go all metallics and pick different types of metallics, so shiny and matte and maybe golds and silvers and coppers, all sorts of different metallics together. That would look really great. Oops. And then I'll just get my last one in place here. All right. So nested together, they look absolutely gorgeous. And then I just need to go ahead and add in my sentiment. So I have to admit that this card comes together super, super quick. What takes the most time is actually just doing all of the die cutting. But of course, since we've got all of these extra little pieces, it's well worth it because now I'm going to have all sorts of extra bottle top dies to use for upcoming projects. All right, there we go. So now that this is all in place, of course, I have all of this overhang. So I will go ahead and flip over my piece and just trim off the edge here. And then I've got just this little bottom piece to trim off as well. And there we go. So lickety split, a first card is done and we've not even opened an ink pad. Our second project is going to utilize that same Water Brush Hello die, and I have a whole bunch of them cut out in both the purple and gold, and then I just need to lay them out in a pattern that works well on the card. So what I found best is to have a whole bunch of them die cut out and to start placing them so you can get a feel for how they fit well together. So basically I had the hello, and then I tried to figure out how they stacked and if they stacked really. So what I found was that the H and the L's always work well together. So if I stack it like so, so that this long stem of the L comes down, and I leave about 1/4 of an inch of space here, then I can get that to work well together. And then again, the L's underneath the H also work well. So the key was always the H and the L's together. So if I go ahead and kind of place these out like so, the H's and the L's all end up lining up. And then I end up with just the perfect pattern to get everything to fit together. So I do need like just a littlest bit of an H up here at the top, and then maybe a little bit of an H over here. So I'm going to go ahead and leave these in place and grab my focal point, which is the gold hello. And it was most important that this one looked the way that I wanted it to on the card. So that's why I started with this one in place. And I will go ahead and put it back in place. Like so. And then I will go ahead and glue the rest of these around it. Now I don't have to glue some of the outside bits because those are going to get cut off. So I'll just go ahead and try to guesstimate exactly what I need to glue together, so that way I don't end up with a whole bunch stuck to my surface. Alright, so now that these are all glued on, I can go ahead and flip it over, and just like the previous card, I can snip these off right at the edge. And then I've got another card done and ready to go on a card base. For the last project, I used the Apothecary Labels Nesting Die Set, the Bold Thanks die set, and the Hanging Garden die set. And I combined those all together to create this nice look, again with the purples and golds. So I've got both of my pieces of the Hanging Garden, and I am going to do some surgery here. So I'm going to snip off the end here so that I have this piece, and I will use these leaves in various ways. And then I've got two smaller sprigs here that I can use to create the look that I need. And actually I'm going to cut off this one here too. And probably just trim that up a little bit. So I've got those two little sprigs, and those are going to kind of make the background here. So I can put those down. And you'll notice that I've been using a liquid adhesive for this. You can use any number of different adhesives. A lot of people like to use like a Xyron sticker maker to add an adhesive sheet to the back. You can die cut it with an adhesive sheet already on the back. Sometimes you can find materials that already have adhesives on the back of the cardstock, which is also helpful. But I find that the liquid glue is the quickest and easiest for me, and I don't really have a problem getting the little bit of glue on these that I need. So I don't have a problem with it. What I will say is I don't get glue everywhere, so I get it up here on the tips of the leaves, and then like here on the center, anywhere that it may try to lift up, and then in these larger areas where different elements meet, where I can get just a little bit more glue down. So it's not everywhere, but it is in enough places that it's not going to lift up on me. All right, so this is kind of approximately where I want all this to go. All right, so I've got that. And then I have my apothecary label and my thanks letters. And I am going to have to put these letters down individually. If I wanted to, I could also get them all lined up and grab them with some washi tape and then flip them over and put them down. But I think I know exactly where all of these need to end up to get a good spacing, especially because of the way that these dies are created, like the H runs into the T and there's not a whole lot of spacing in between the rest of the letters. So it is actually kind of easy. See, the H comes up right underneath the T here. And if I didn't have sticky fingers, I wouldn't have that problem. There we go. And the A has an angle to one side but not the other. So it just kind of angles off the H. And then the N is fairly close to the A. And the N is the same both directions, so it doesn't matter which way that ends up going. All right. The K has a nice long tail to it. And the S just fits kind of right on the end. All right, so now that I've got all of those letters in place, I can go ahead and glue down my label, and I can even kind of tuck it up right underneath this one little berry here. There we go. And then I can take these extra pieces, and in the case of like this one, what I want to do is just trim a little bit here so that it looks like it's all supposed to be a small little piece like this and that it's finished. So when I do something like that, and then I can add a little bit of glue here and just tuck it up underneath like so. And then I can grab these guys and do something very similar. So grab this longer one here. And add him in like so. And then say I want to just trim this down here. See how that makes it look like it's a finished sprig of leaves. I'm just going to add a little bit of adhesive both to the front and back of this, just the stem, and tuck that right up underneath. And let that sit up. I'm not going to glue that down, so that way it gives it a little bit of dimension. And then this last piece here, I just need to trim off this extra little bit. And again, just a little bit of adhesive on the front and back. And I can tuck that underneath the label as well. And it's not getting adhesive anywhere else either, so that way it can sit up a little bit too. All right, so there you go. A third project without any ink. I hope you enjoyed these projects that help you to create some amazing projects without opening even one ink pad. They really are a lot of fun and will have you looking at your supplies in a totally different way. If you love today's projects, don't forget to subscribe and click the bell to get notifications when I have new content for you. Thanks so much for stopping by today, and until next time, happy crafting.